Look, let's get real for a second. You've been told to save your money, invest in a 401k, and hope for the best. You've been sold on the idea that financial freedom is a distant island you might reach one day if you just stay the course. But here's the thing. While you're following the rules, a quiet tension is building. You're investing for the future, but does your strategy truly honor God, or is it just a plan to feed your anxiety? You're doing what you're told, but it doesn't feel like it's leading to the purpose you know you were made for. It feels like you're a pawn in someone else's chess game, just trying not to get checkmated by market downturns and inflation. This feeling is a red flag. It's the signal that something is missing from the world's financial playbook. What if the solution isn't about finding a better market, but a better mission? I'm going to show you a financial truth that most advisors can't or won't tell you. A truth that aligns your money with your God-given purpose and replaces that gnawing anxiety with bold, intentional action. The world's financial advice often sounds wise because it's built on a foundation of sound data. It tells you to diversify, to manage risk, and to save consistently. And that's not bad advice. In fact, it's good. But it's also incomplete. It's a strategy built for a world without a purpose greater than itself. It's the difference between a high-performance race car and that same car with a driver who knows exactly where the finish line is. Our approach isn't about rejecting the world's tools. It's about using them with a higher, more strategic intelligence. It's about leveraging the best of secular financial strategy, market analysis, economic logic, asset allocation, but filtering it all through a scriptural lens. We're not here to hope for the best. We're here to execute a plan with precision, purpose, and power. We're not anti-secular, we're post-secular. We use the world's wisdom to build a kingdom. Most people feel paralyzed by their finances because they've unknowingly adopted a handful of flawed habits. These habits make you vulnerable not just to market risk, but to a deeper, more dangerous spiritual pitfall: fear and passivity. The first flawed habit is passive participation. This is the set it and forget it approach to investing. You opened an account, picked a few funds, and now you just check your balance occasionally, hoping it's gone up. You've ceded control, handing over your financial future to a market you don't truly understand. The flaw here is a spiritual one. The parable of the talents was not a lesson on passive saving. It was a lesson on active stewardship and multiplication. When you just park your money and hope for the best, you are acting like the servant who buried his talent out of fear. You become a victim of market forces and the emotional roller coaster of news cycles. This isn't a strategy, it's a prayer without a plan. The second habit is the just get by mindset. This is a particularly dangerous pitfall for believers. The thinking goes like this: I'm a person of faith. My focus should be on spiritual things, not money. I'll just get by financially and focus on the kingdom. This mindset, while seemingly humble, is a form of spiritual passivity. It ignores the biblical mandate to be a wise steward, to multiply resources, and to be a lender, not a borrower. The truth is, the kingdom needs resources to advance. When you operate with a just-get-by mentality, you are limiting your ability to fund your God-given purpose, to be generous, and to create opportunities for others. Third, we have the habit of chasing holy returns. This is the opposite extreme. You see a Christian-labeled investment, a seemingly blessed opportunity, and you jump in without doing the hard, disciplined work of due diligence. You confuse spiritual righteousness with financial logic. You might be told it's a faith-based investment, so you suspend your critical thinking. This is a common trap. The Bible tells us to be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. That means we apply the world's most rigorous analysis to every opportunity, regardless of its spiritual label. Faith is not an excuse for foolishness. True faith is confident enough to use all the tools God has given us, including our intellect and discernment. Finally, there's the idolatry of diversification. Now hear me out. Diversification is a fundamentally sound principle. Spreading your risk is smart. But for many, it's become a shield against personal responsibility. You're told to just invest in 100 different things and you'll be safe. You use it as an excuse to avoid understanding what you own. You're praying for a good outcome rather than actively stewarding what's been entrusted to you. A true steward doesn't just spread their money around. They know what each asset is doing and how it aligns with their purpose. Diversification becomes an idol when it's treated as a magic bullet that absolves you from the responsibility of deep, intentional engagement. This isn't about just fixing bad habits. It's about replacing them with a new operating system. A system built on 4 foundational pillars that don't just get you a better return, but a better purpose. Pillar 1, purpose-driven asset allocation. Most advisors talk about asset allocation in terms of age and risk tolerance. We're going to talk about it in terms of purpose and mission. The parable of the talents isn't a suggestion. It's a direct command to multiply what you've been given for a specific purpose. We know from Scripture that stewardship is about intentional action, not just preservation. The secular proof for this is simple. Modern portfolio theory itself can be recalibrated. Instead of just creating a portfolio to avoid risk, you can structure one to take calculated risks to achieve a specific mission. How do you do it? You break your money into buckets. You have a bucket for liquidity, the funds you need for a ministry outreach or an emergency. You have a bucket for long-term, low-volatility growth that provides stability for your family. And crucially, you have a kingdom fund, a bucket of assets allocated to higher risk, higher reward opportunities that could generate disproportionate returns to fund your calling. This isn't about blindly gambling. It's about intentionally allocating a portion of your capital to a specific purpose, whether that's funding a nonprofit, launching a new business, or investing in a company that aligns with your values. The common pitfall here is sticking to the standard 60-40 portfolio out of fear or laziness. This cookie-cutter approach is not only potentially underperforming, but also ignores your specific calling. Your portfolio should be a reflection of your purpose, not just a repository for your fears. Pillar 2, the multiplier mindset. The world teaches you to save. The Bible teaches you to multiply. From Genesis 1:28 to the parable of the talents, there is a consistent foundational principle of multiplying what you've been given. The secular proof of this is the undeniable power of compounding returns on investment and the concept of return on equity, ROE, in business. Your labor, your wisdom, and your capital are not meant to sit idle. They are meant to produce. So instead of just saving, you shift your focus to investing in assets that produce cash flow and appreciate over time. This could be investing in a rental property that generates monthly income, starting a side business that produces a new income stream, or even developing intellectual property like a book or a course. The goal is to make your money work for you so you can work on your purpose. The common pitfall here is the just get by mentality we talked about earlier. Believing that a spiritually minded person should be passive with their finances is a lie. This passive mindset is a spiritual tax, limiting your potential to create wealth, be generous, and fund a larger mission. Pillar 3, the king's leverage. The world fears debt. The world says the borrower is a slave to the lender, but a steward understands that not all debt is created equal. There is a profound difference between consumer debt, which is a tool for instant gratification and leads to financial servitude, and strategic debt, which is a tool for wealth creation and multiplication. The biblical proof of this is found not in a specific verse, but in a principle. God has always used seemingly foolish or small things to accomplish big things. Strategic leverage is a tool, and a wise steward knows how to use it. The secular proof is all around us. Every major real estate investor and every successful business has at some point used strategic leverage to grow. So how do you use this tool? You use it to acquire productive assets, not consumables. Good debt is a mortgage on a cash-flowing rental property that pays for itself and leaves you with an asset. Bad debt is a credit card balance for a vacation that's long forgotten. The common pitfall is either indiscriminate use of consumer debt or, on the extreme, a total avoidance of all debt, which prevents you from acquiring a cash-flowing asset that would multiply your resources. A wise steward knows the difference. Pillar 4, the kingdom diversification. Ecclesiastes 11:2 tells us, "Divide your portion into 7 or even 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth." This is the oldest, most powerful wisdom on diversification. It's not just about spreading risk, it's about being strategically resilient. The secular proof is the concept of investing in different asset classes, not just different stocks, to protect against a downturn in any single market. But we're going to take this a step further. Kingdom diversification is about diversifying your income streams and your assets. It means not having your entire financial well-being tied to one job or one market. It's having a W-2 income, a side business, a rental property, and a diversified investment portfolio. The common pitfall is confusing this true diversification with simply owning multiple different stocks. True diversification is about protecting your ability to pursue your purpose, no matter what happens in the economy. This isn't just theory. This is a playbook for real life. I want to share a few stories that show you what this looks like when it's put into practice. I once mentored a young professional, let's call him David. David was doing everything right by the world's standards. He was a high earner, maxing out his 401k, and had a standard portfolio. But he felt a deep spiritual pull to launch a nonprofit dedicated to providing vocational training for at-risk youth. He was stuck, believing he had to work for another 15 years to get a high enough balance to fund his dream. I challenged him to shift his mindset from passive saving to purposeful investing. We reallocated a portion of his portfolio from a generic fund into a more strategic bucket. We invested in a small local real estate development that aligned with his values. The return on that single, intentional investment was so powerful that within 3 years, he had enough capital and cash flow to launch his nonprofit and dedicate a significant portion of his time to it. The takeaway? You don't have to wait for your calling. You can fund it with your portfolio. This isn't a new concept. Look at the biblical figure of Joseph. He wasn't just a passive servant. He was a strategic economic planner. He was given a vision, and he applied it with shrewd, practical wisdom. He understood the concept of leverage and strategic diversification, preparing for a coming famine by storing up resources during years of plenty. He didn't just pray and hope for the best. He put in place a system to ensure the well-being of an entire nation. His story is proof that godly wisdom isn't just spiritual, it is deeply practical and strategic. Think about a small business owner, perhaps someone you know. They have a dream to start a business that provides a valuable service to their community. They could have relied on a personal savings account, which would have taken years to build up. Instead, they took out a carefully considered strategic loan, what we call the king's leverage. They used that capital to buy the necessary equipment, hire a small team, and launch their business. That business not only became profitable, but it created jobs in the community and generated excess income that they could then use to fund local ministry. Strategic debt is not a sin. It is a tool that, when used wisely, can become a catalyst for multiplication and kingdom impact. We have arrived at a crossroads. On one path is the way of the world, a passive, fear-driven financial strategy that leaves you a victim of market forces and spiritual anxiety. It's a path that treats your money like a trophy to be protected, not a tool to be wielded. It leads to a retirement that is financially secure, perhaps, but spiritually hollow. But there is another way. It is the path of the wise steward. This path is one of active, purposeful action. It sees your portfolio not as a nest egg, but as a war chest. It recognizes that every dollar is a resource to be deployed in service of your calling. This isn't just about getting a better financial return. It's about generating a better return on your life, your mission, and your kingdom impact. The stakes here are high, not because of market fluctuations, but because your time and your resources are finite. They are a gift to be used to make a lasting difference. So here's your call to action. Take a look at your financial life. Look at your investments, your debt, your income streams. Are they a reflection of your purpose or just a repository for your fears? Don't let your financial life be a series of passive decisions. Take the first step today. Reevaluate your current strategy through the lens of purpose. Ask yourself, what asset can I acquire? What debt can I eliminate? What income stream can I multiply to fuel my mission? It's time to stop just hoping for a good outcome and start strategically building the life you were called to live.